Welcome back to the road. Today we're stopping in the lovely mountain town of Wallace, Idaho. This is an interesting little town with a history centered around mining, land claims, and a Civil War colonel. It all started back in 1884 when mining in the area led Colonel Wallace to build a cabin in what was then called the Plaza Center. Knowing the location was perfect for a town because of its central location in relation to the local mining efforts and the river, Wallace wasted no time setting up plots to be sold in making a town. A year later, the place had a grocery store. A year after that, there was a general store and even a hotel. Everything seemed to be rolling along just fine when the federal government decided the script they used for the land was in doubt. According to them, the one Wallace was using had been reportedly lost and replaced. Wallace and company didn't let that legal nonsense slow them down and went right on selling plots of land for future townfolks. Meanwhile, the railroad came to town and things took off even more. The place had salons, apartment buildings, and even a schoolhouse. That's when the dispute with the script used to start the town came back to trouble everyone, especially those who had bought land not knowing it was contested. People began jumping land, all claiming extra bits from their neighbors. Prices fell. It was a crazy time. Eventually, Wallace and company won and things settled down, except that the place kept growing. By 1900s, the place had over 2,000 people living there. It was looking good until the Great Fire of 1910. The fire itself burned around 3 million acres and 2/3 of the town. In the 1970s, new EPA regulations led to the loss of a lot of the jobs in the area. As a result, the population dropped significantly and is just below 800 today. Wallace owns a lot of its early growth to the railroad. And to learn more about that, we're stopping off at the Northern Pacific Depot Railroad Museum. The museum is an actual rail depot that has been very well preserved. The building still has a lot of the furnishings that would have been used when it was in operation. The space actually reminds me a lot of the old bus station back home. It is much quieter, of course, but maybe in its heyday, things were pretty lovely here as well. Upstairs, there are a lot of relics and reminders of the past. There are also some great models of the railroad. While here, I learned a story from the Great Fire of 1910 about people attempting to escape on the trains. They passed over burning bridges and took refuge in tunnels from the flames. The museum has a lot of great information and is a great visit. Being a mining town, it's no surprise that Wallace has a history of vice. The city surprisingly embraced it, with madams being treated as important community leaders in many cases. Today, the brothels are officially shut down, but the Oasis Rooms lives on in the form of a museum. It seems that the place stayed in operation long after the rules changed. But in 1988, the madam who ran the place was tipped off about an investigation. The woman who worked there left their stuff behind, thinking they would be back. But the investigations lasted a long time, and they never never came back. When the building was purchased years later, the new owner found everything just as it had been, and it was turned into a sort of museum. I have to admit, this place is a little creepy. There's something dark about it. This is the perfect mountain town. Everywhere you look seems like a postcard. Our last stop in town is the Pulaski Tunnel Trail. The name refers to Ed Pulaski and his heroic efforts to save the firefighters who were with him. When the flames were about to overtake them, he led his crew into a tunnel. Some of the men with him were ready to give up, but he forced them to stay at gunpoint. It sounds crazy, but it really did save their lives. Today, there's this amazing trail to follow and enjoying the incredible nature that is here. I hope you enjoyed this visit to Wallace, Idaho. This place has an interesting and colorful history and sits in some very beautiful scenery. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for watching. See you next time.